1. So for context, let me just say that my landlord is indeed my roommate, and it is a decision I am deeply regretting. We live in a medium-sized New York City apartment in a downtown Manhattan neighborhood. We have a significant age gap. He's in his 60s, I'm in my 20s. I know it's an unconventional roomie situation, but it was through a trustworthy subletting company for students looking to save money and sublease directly from the landlord and live with them. All was surprisingly okay, until now, about 10 months later. My roommate first knocked on my door and passive-aggressively asked me to turn off my AC and stop using it, even though my room is very small and gets extremely hot. I pay $1,600 a month for this room, so I feel like I have jurisdiction to at least have a little bit of autonomy to turn on and off the AC when I wish. Electricity is included in my apartment. I figured he was just trying to cut corners and be cheap, but I obliged and limited using the AC as frequently to accommodate. I feel like he monitors the amount of time I spend in the apartment, is genuinely annoyed by my presence. Even if I am in my room, I legitimately never feel like I can use the common spaces because he uses the kitchen as an office space for some odd reason. And if any of you know, New York City space is extremely limited. He will sometimes sit in the kitchen for over 8 hours a day. I get it, he is older, so he obviously doesn't leave the house as often as me. But him utilizing the kitchen as an office space seriously makes me feel like I cannot even use the kitchen, so I barely cook. The one time I put food in the fridge, he ate it and never replaced it. He also ate my eggs once and said he would replace it and never did. This caused me to want to seclude my food, leading me to use a microwave in my room and eating mainly canned stuff. I know it's unfair. I know people will say, "Stand up for yourself." And it's really hard when I've been conditioned to respect your elders, and I feel like he has a way of making things so subtle and passive-aggressive that confronting him would lead to him just immediately gaslighting. He then came to my room and said he was taking the TV from my room, even though I pay $1,600 a month for a furnished room, TV included. He knows I watch the TV often, and I feel like he's just looking for ways to make my living experience uncomfortable. The last straw was he sent me a text of a part-time job, suggesting I needed to get out the house more, and came knocking on my door, asking me if I'm getting a part-time job this summer. Mind you, I'm a school teacher, on summer break that just worked the entire school year, and have only been on break so far for legitimately 1 week. No, I am not unemployed. I am paid during summer breaks. And no, I have never been late on rent or owe him anything. God forbid I take a bit of time for myself, and no, I am never the type of roommate that is home 24/7. That leads to the next thing. I try to spend a lot of time out of the apartment because I have always felt that he doesn't really want me there. Because whenever I'm home, he will passive-aggressively knock on my door to bring up a new issue. First it was the AC, and then the TV, then urging me to get a job and passive-aggressively texting me listings when I never asked him. I was recently just gone for a few days to get away from the apartment because I could feel he did not want me there. And as soon as I get back, that's when he came knocking on my door, passive-aggressively, asking me to get a job this summer despite me being out of the house literally 24/7. I seriously feel like I'm on the edge living here and legit being monitored. I am growing to hate him and dread coming home and try spending as much time as possible out of the apartment, which feels extremely unfair to me considering I'm paying so much money to not even feel comfortable in my own room. I also have a suspicion that he enters my room when I am away. I left my door shut when I left a few days, and when I came home my door was wide open. So, quick recap. What should I do and how should I deal with my roommate being passive-aggressive and trying to micromanage my life? They tried to tell me to get a part-time job despite me still being employed, or trying to take amenities out of my room that came with the furnished room that I pay $1,600 per month for, told me to stop using AC, ate my food, and possibly, maybe going in my room while I am gone. They seemingly monitor my schedule, and if I am in the apartment for more than a few hours during the day, they come knocking on my door with passive-aggressive requests and inquiries. They're older, so I feel weird about confronting them. Hellfreezer's note. You need to move past this nonsense of respecting your elders. Literally, all this person has on you is that they are older. That's it. They are not a wise elder. They don't hold any position of authority. They don't really have anything over you. They're just older. They've been taking up space on this planet a lot longer than you have, and that's it. Some people can live decades and never mature and learn. So, you need to start taking up space. Perhaps a gentle but open conversation with your landlord would be appropriate. Ask him if he wants you to move out. I expect he won't, because what he wants is the benefits of having you as a roommate. He wants the money, while seeing you as nothing more than his meal ticket. That's a callous way to phrase it, but that's literally how he sees you. Just a thing there for his convenience, to be ignored the rest of the time. Sounds like he's violating the terms of your lease, and I'd also look into seeing if that would be enough to get you out of the lease. It might be, and I hope it is, for your sake. Also, $1,600 a month, jeebus. I know New York is expensive, but why is everybody paying so much to live there when it sounds like nobody's having a good time doing it? 2. Years ago, one of my roommates I lived with was a girl who initially claimed she came to the US to get her master's. It was clear that her style, attitude, and ideas were heavily influenced by American movies and TV shows with wealthy, privileged women. I one time got secondhand embarrassment from witnessing her loudly claiming, in a high-end boutique we were in, that she knows what rich people clothes are like, and clothes the boutique was selling are things people pretending to be rich wear. All while trying to pass off her chien coat and sunglasses as Burberry and Ray-Ban. I heard the sales associates were whispering to each other as we left, and I'm pretty sure they were talking mad crap about her. I later found out she came in as an au pair and lied to her family about being in school. Apparently she hates being an au pair, so she quit without realizing that she would have to leave the country. So she married the first guy she met on a dating app to secure a green card. The guy was financially secure and worked at a large tech company, but barely average in appearance and had very little experience in dating and relationships. She stroked his ego extra hard to get the ring on her finger. She implied how very lucky that an exotic former model studying for her master's in psychology wanted to spend the rest of her life with someone like him. None of which was true. She soon became a stay-at-home wife, where all she did was shop and dine on his dime. She once told me she maxed out one of his credit cards buying frappuccinos and pastries from a coffee shop every single day. When confronted, she told him she doesn't understand why he's shocked at something wives do all the time. I'm pretty sure she got away with her entitlement only with him because he was blinded, maybe literally, by her alleged beauty and love, so he let it go. She eventually moved out when her spending habits were getting out of hand, and he soon refused to let her use his cards. She lied that she wanted space to focus on her studies and be closer to her nanny job, that she was forced to get by him to pay off the debts, and that's how she ended up rooming with me and 2 other girls. It was after she told us all of her life was filled with poor and unfortunate circumstances, where we found out what a piece of crap she was. Never paid rent on time, invited strangers home to drink and illegally smoke weed, did a terrible job of cleaning to the point where we got rodents in our house. I could go on about the nonsense she put us through, but it went into overdrive when her husband found out she was cheating on him with guys she met on dating apps and opening up credit cards under his name. She was scared that he'd cancel her green card application, so started taking it out on us by stealing our food, breaking and tossing our kitchenware, breaking up relationships and friendships, etc. At one point, we got in a full-blown verbal fight with her about behavior, along with not putting her share of the housework and rent. This girl, who smoked weed so often that we couldn't tell if she was high or not, made an argument that she was too hot to not be at home long enough to create messes or pay rent in full. and essentially called us stupid and possibly ugly for fussing over it. In my opinion, the only hotness I've seen was the lighter she used to light her joint. Me and other roommate moved out not long after, and not without shutting down utilities that were all under my name. She refused to take over because she claimed she didn't want to think about being the responsible one. Last I heard, she never finished filing her green card application before her husband divorced her. She ended up moving in and marrying a druggie with a mediocre job, and looks like she met on a dating app just to file again. Her former friends, flings, and roommates have been posting their international travels all over social media, and she's more than angry about it. I'm about to announce my upcoming vacation also, to her home country. 3. Preface. I'm a 35-year-old travel nurse who has had many short-term roommates in the past. I move around quite a bit, but I've been in this city for 15 months. I can get along with almost anyone. I recently moved into a house owned by this woman in May for a 3-month contract. She seemed sweet initially, mid to late 40s, originally from El Salvador. I learned that she is going through a divorce. Her husband moved out in January, and he already got someone new pregnant. Her dog also recently passed. I work long hours, but we usually exchange pleasantries when I get home from work. Then I'm off to bed. Her conversation almost always jumped to how she can't find any decent men to date. They always ghost her, play games, etc. She will often ask about my love life and if I'm also looking for someone. I'm a private person. I keep the conversation very surface level. She will frequently ask me of my whereabouts when I come home and my days off. She'll say things like, "You're so quiet when you leave. I didn't know you were going out." She asks me what I use in my hair, what days I work, and what I am cooking for in my weekly meal preps. Most people don't know how to do that. Meaning cooking? What a strange thing to say. Eventually, she said we should go out and have drinks, watch karaoke, etc. I work 50 hours a week, and when I do get a day off, I'm busy with other things. She seems perturbed that I am never at the house and encourages me to make myself comfortable and have a glass of wine from her bar, watch TV downstairs, etc. The trouble started with Netflix. I have my own account that I watch in my room. She asked if I had done something to her TV because the app no longer worked downstairs. Turns out her ex's email is the account holder. "It's on his email, but I pay for it," she said. I tried explaining to her that he must have logged in at his new home, rendering her app useless. She continued to blame my upstairs login as the culprit, it wasn't, and wanted me to help fix it. I told her to take it up with her ex. Normally, she'll leave the door unlocked if I'm coming home from work. One night, I didn't come home until late. Door was unlocked, and it appeared as though she was waiting for me on the couch. She had fallen asleep, but wanted to have a long conversation when I strolled in at midnight. The community we're in has a pool. She said I could use the key to get in whenever I wanted. While she was working from home one day, I grabbed the key and did exactly that. When I returned and told her I went, she looked dejected, almost upset. She said her guy friend told her he was at the pool today also, and between the two of us, she never got an invite. And she laughed it off jokingly. Was I supposed to invite her? I left that same evening and went to dinner with a friend. When I returned, I was locked out of the house. The deadbolt with key code is usually the only locked door, but for some reason, she turned both door locks. I rang the doorbell several times before she came to the door. It was accidental, but I'm starting to think she is projecting her issues onto me. Am I being irrational or going crazy here, or is she just being petty? I'm a roommate on a work contract, not a hired BFF. My comings and goings should make no difference. I'm just looking for an outside perspective and advice on how I should approach her, if at all. If I were to go out with her for dinner or drinks at this point, I feel like her behavior would amplify. I don't want this to be a single white female reboot. Hellfreezer's note, I think you hit the nail on the head there. She wasn't looking for a roommate, she was looking for a new friend, because she's lonely. And that's sad. I certainly feel sorry for her, but it's her issue to fix. She can't be putting that on you. As you say, you're only there for 3 months, so just keep to yourself, and when the 3 months is up, you can move on. no harm done. But she needs to talk to someone, even if it's just a family member or, quite frankly, a therapist. She also needs to cancel her Netflix account and then set one up under her own email, because really, what was that about? 4. Although this living situation has been over for around a month now, I still felt the need to post about this since it caused me and my friends so much horror. The story will be a little out of order, but I'm mainly going by each element, and all the names will be fake for privacy reasons. For some background information, me and my friend Sky decided last year to continue living in campus housing in an apartment. However, we were not lucky enough to get a 2-person apartment, and instead went with a 4-person, where we had 2 random people living with us. That's why we were put in this situation with this girl. We did not know what living with her would bring us beforehand. Starting off, Harper, the bad roommate, would also always leave her dirty dishes in the sink where they would sit for days, before my other roommate, Anastasia, now best friends with, would clean them up since none of us wanted to touch them. A little bit of additional context: both Sky and Anastasia have OCD, and one of their obsessions has to do with contamination. On top of that, I'm a big germaphobe, to the point where I believe things that have come into contact with something I consider to be dirty have now been contaminated. This would be less annoying if these were her dishes, but these were the dishes that I brought for us all to use. She did the same with the pots and pans and cooking utensils that my other roommates had brought, where she would either leave them on the stove or in the sink for days. On top of that, whenever she used the stovetop, she would almost never clean it after, so there would just be food stains, scraps, oil splatters left around for us to clean in her stead. When she did clean up the stove, it was clear she just did it with a dry paper towel, as oil would just become smeared around. It wasn't just the dishes and food she didn't help clean up either. She also never helped clean around the apartment and ignored us when we did. I'm guessing so she didn't have to help. Harper never cleaned the bathroom she shared with Anastasia. She hardly ever took out the trash and recycling, despite us having assigned days for it. She only ever did these when I explicitly told her she had to, since it was full in her day. She never wiped down the kitchen counter on her assigned day unless explicitly asked, and she never filled nor emptied the dishwasher. One part that I find especially funny was when we were having one of our roommate meetings, mainly held for us to bring up the things we needed her to do and start doing without directly naming her, where we brought up the topic of all us helping out with the cleaning, and she told us that she vacuums the living room rug when no one is home. How convenient, huh? I would also like to add that this was her rug. That's not all, though. Another thing that Harper never did for us was buy any of the equally shared things. She never bought dish soap, kitchen hand soap or bathroom hand soap, paper towels, toilet paper, trash bags, or dishwasher pods. If you can think of it, we can name it as something she didn't buy. None of these are necessarily bank-breaking expensive, but if you're equally sharing a product with others, you should also pitch in every once in a while. But I think the cherry on top of it all was that she seriously stunk. I'm not talking like bad perfume or a slight BO either. I'm talking she just ran a marathon without deodorant, and then swam a lap through a dumpster bad. When Harper first moved in, we thought that it was maybe just a one-time thing, where she could have forgotten deodorant, and with all the heavy lifting from move-in, the smell got worse. So we just opened the windows and sucked it up. But it wasn't just a one-time thing. It was an entire school year thing where me and my roommates were stuck with this stench. I know describing it like this may make me and my roommates seem like mean girls, but it really was just that bad. Some examples, to put it into perspective, include me being able to smell when she returned home despite being in the shower with water, my shampoo and conditioner, and body wash, supposedly dampening the smell. Me and my roommates were also able to tell when she was home or not, based purely off of smell, and her room was permanently stuck with her BO, whether she was home or not. Making things worse for Sky and myself, our bathroom just happened to be right across from Harper's bedroom, so her stench would always go into it. It reached the point where we would either be going through bottles of Febreze to clear up the air for us to simply use our bathroom, or holding our breath until we were out. I feel like from that alone I have gotten to the point where I could beat an Olympic swimmer in a breath-holding contest without breaking a sweat. Her smell also soaked into my towels to dry off from showering, even if I had only used them once and made sure before and after that I did not smell before using them. Her BO occasionally leaked into Sky's room, who was right next to hers, so she would have to face her fan towards the window and put it on high. If Harper went to use the kitchen or stayed in another room, that was now a room that could not be simultaneously occupied by us. All of this, but especially the smell, led to many breakdowns among me and my roommates throughout the year. I know this might seem extreme to some, but it truly affected our mental health quite a bit, even changing our daily functioning patterns. And before you question if we brought all these concerns up with her, I want you to know that we did. Throughout the 9 months we lived with her, we had at least 4 or 5 roommate meetings where we brought up the smell and lack of cleaning. Despite us starting out nice and saying that we noticed a smell, or a lack of cleaning, we eventually moved to just straight up telling her that the smell was her and we needed her to do more cleaning. We even texted her to let her know privately outside these meetings. Almost every time we were either ignored, deflected, or told false promises. There was even one solid week near the end of the second semester where we noticed she just didn't smell at all. Like did her laundry and showered, but was still living with us like before, so I believe that it showed she could have just done that all along, but didn't care. I could very well be wrong. Also, if you're concerned that this may be related to mental health, culture, or other causes, we also covered those bases. First of all, it is not culture-related. Harper is white and also owns deodorant, which Anastasia said she's never seen actually be used. She also showers, but once again, Anastasia has told us that she hasn't seen her body wash go down. I know that might seem weird, but when you're stuck in an apartment with someone who smells, you're bound to check those things. We've also rarely seen her do laundry in our home dishwasher and dryers. I'm talking 3 or 4 times for our entire 9 months, or even wash her bedding. We also tried to get her to open up about if she has depression, or any other causes could be related to it, by sharing some of our own mental health troubles and such. This, of course, does not mean she's obligated to open up to us, but due to nothing being said, we have no reason to believe this is the case. Very well could be, but since we do not know for sure, we cannot default to our assumptions as excuses for her behavior. We also tried to bring this up with our RA near the end of the second semester, but we never heard anything back on it. A part of me feels bad for how I feel about Harper and spoke about her, since she is a nice person, although it was more basic human decency, but I feel that all these negative experiences have just been transferred to her, and I can't erase those. There are still more things I could bring up, but this post has gotten long. 5. To provide context, I am currently living in a town that is pretty touristy, and is extremely expensive when it comes to rent. My employer provides very affordable shared staff accommodation, so I am currently living with a coworker in that staff accommodation. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment. He is in a completely different department from me in a very large site, so I never interact with him at work. It's been about a month since we both moved in, and since the beginning he has left urine on the floor next to the toilet, as well as on the toilet seat, literally every time he goes to the bathroom. Not like a once every few days thing, every time he goes he does it. Twice he has left poop marks on the toilet seat. The walls are paper thin, and I can hear everything he does in the bathroom, so I know he also does not wash his hands. At this point I don't even care about that, but if he's going to touch things in any shared space, he needs to wash. I confronted him about this, and he never acknowledges the toilet thing, nor apologizes for what he did to the toilet seat, and even outright accuses me of peeing on the seat. I grew up in a very clean household. I came into this accommodation not expecting my random roommate to maintain that standard, but at the very least checking to make sure the toilet seat is clean should be expected. I sit when I pee, sorry if that's a cuck thing to do or whatever, but that's the way I grew up. It is very much impossible of me to ever leave pee stains, especially on the back end of the toilet seat. I don't know how one poops on a toilet seat, I've never done that in my life. When I confront him about all this, he also gets heated and says that I leave hair in the tub after I shower, and water outside the tub. I have an extremely long beard and a ton of body hair. I'm aware that a lot of hair sheds after a shower. So since day one, I have spent 5 minutes after every shower making sure every hair is gone. The water was something that I can attest to. I had dried myself off, for the most part outside of the tub, to minimize the hairs dropping into the tub. Since he first confronted me about that, though, I've fixed that problem by mopping the floor and drying it after showering. I feel like water is also very normal. That's what bathroom mats are for. And I have requested that he purchase one, since I have purchased every appliance as well as all the toiletries and cleaning products for the unit, but he won't do that. Another thing to note is that despite him complaining about my hair, which again I'm confident that I'm not leaving, is I make sure there's no hair when I'm done. Perhaps I'll take pictures next time. He literally leaves hair in the tub. There is currently hair and other unknown debris in the tub from his last shower, as well as pee stains on the wall next to the toilet, and the side of the tub and the floor. Sorry for the incredibly disorganized essay and rant, but I would really appreciate suggestions. This guy has been incredibly frustrating to deal with from the beginning. We agreed to a 2-year internet plan that he would be ordering, and I would be splitting the bill with him on, and he ended up going with a completely different random third-party provider because they're apparently the only provider to offer 25 megabits per second speed. When I tell him that speed is not sufficient for me and my hobbies, and that he agrees to some sort of compromise, he says, "First come, first serve. I already installed this, so e-transfer me." I don't know if I'm in the wrong or right there, but overall he has been so frustrating to deal with on all fronts. And because I am in staff accommodation, it's not like I can kick him out. Is there something I could do to deal with him, or should I just ask management to relocate me? Not guaranteed, because units are mostly full. Hellfreezer's note: you should definitely ask management to relocate you. I'd imagine there's a standard of upkeep when it comes to living in these staff units. I'd look into what your agreement says and start taking pictures as you suggested. Basically document everything as you might need it later. As far as the internet thing goes, that is a ridiculously low speed for these days. It's practically unusable, quite frankly. You're right not to agree to it, as you did have an agreement on how it should be done and he went his own way. So he can pay for it if he wants it that badly. It's not what you agreed to. Also, stop buying shared toiletries and things like that. Get your own, keep it in your room out of the way of him so he can't access it. You're not his parent, it's not up to you to supply these things for him. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates episode 21. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and share the video with friends and family. If you'd like early access to the videos, you get them on Monday, early Tuesday, the absolute latest. It's usually Monday. You get that by supporting me on my Patreon page for as little as $1 a month, or more if you'd like. That's linked in the description, as is a link to the Hellfreezer Discord, as well as the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. If you really enjoyed today's video, you can leave a tip by clicking on the heart with a $sign underneath the video, although that is not and is never required, but I very much appreciate it. Okay, no other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: what does it take to disrupt your sleep schedule? For me, it's very, very easy. Like, mine got completely rattled today after gradually getting on a bit of an even keel because I had someone coming to do the annual safety inspection for the heating. And they came and they did it, and that's fine. But that meant that I had to get up at 10:30. Thankfully, they were good enough to call, so I didn't get no sleep, but I didn't get a lot of sleep. So I had to then wait for them coming, doing their job. And when they were finally gone, I was eventually able to go back into bed and sleep and woke up at 8 p.m. So that is my sleep schedule completely ruined. But what about you? Are you more resilient than that, or does a feather falling in the woods mess everything up for you? Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Deeper Things. Having grown up hungry, wasting food is as close to a sin as anything can be. I recall one time in my growing up that my sister worked very hard on a spaghetti. It's what was in the relatively bare cupboard, and she found a can of what she took to be tomato paste. I mean, the label was in Spanish, but it looked like tomato paste. I'll just say that it was a product of Mexico, and did also have tomato in it. But the other stuff in it did not go well with oregano, and was strong enough to be used as a paint remover. When heading to the table, Mom had an aside with us and told us it hadn't exactly turned out as planned, but we should act like we enjoyed it anyway, so as not to discourage my sister from cooking in the future. That's the day I became an actor. It was really bad and frankly hard to eat. We would have eaten it anyway, you don't waste food, but pretending to like it was especially hard. That does remind me of a time I was expecting spicy and didn't get it. My mother had, there was 4 jars of sauce in the cupboard. And generally speaking, I still myself use 2 jars when cooking something because I like to have stuff left over, but when cooking for a family, 2 jars of sauce was enough. So there was 4. There was 2 for a curry, and there was 2 for a bolognese, I believe it was. And at some point in the cooking process, the jars were obviously quite similar, probably the same brand, and my mother had grabbed the bolognese sauces for the curry and put a little curry powder in there as well, so there was a slight hint of spice, but it wasn't really what you were expecting. It was actually quite nice, and I did assure her it was actually quite nice. It tasted nice, it just was a bit surprising, because it was essentially bolognese sauce with the composition of a curry. We did later in the week have the curry, and it was very yummy. But yeah, that was probably the most memorable food I can recall from when I was younger. Thank you very much for your answer, Deeper Things. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.